Oh, no. I was at the mic, I was speaking, and Matt Gaetz tried to interrupt, and so I told him to sit down, and he sat down.
What's your deal?
I think no, I told him to sit down. I think the entire conference screamed at him. People are, listen, the whole country, I think, would scream at Matt Gaetz right now. Remember, it was a crazy eights led by Matt Gaetz and every single Democrat that put us into this situation. We've never been in this situation before, but how do you have 4% of your conference remove a speaker when 96% are there? This is why we're here. He had no plan afterwards. Now we have Israel at a war, questions whether Congress can act, questions where we'd be able to go to select a new speaker. I mean, it's a difficult situation driven by one person for his own personal beliefs, his own animosity towards me, and his concern about what's inside an ethics complaint that was filed before I was even Speaker.
What is
all right, guys, so we got to talk about the GOP Speaker of the House situation that has turned into a whole drama, okay? I mean, I'm doing a series of videos covering this Speaker of the House nomination process that should be a lot more simple than it actually is, okay? I mean, it is a drama at this point, right? It's like watching a soap opera, kind of like The Young and the Restless, God and Light, you know, The Bold and the Beautiful, okay, General Hospital. You guys know the soap operas, okay? This is kind of what it's like watching, okay? As Jim Jordan was supposed to have a third vote today for Speaker of the House after failing twice to get the position because 20 or so Republicans decided that they were still salty about Kevin McCarthy being ousted from the job. However, that third vote did not happen today because during an early morning GOP conference meeting with the leaders of the GOP, including Jim Jordan, Kevin McCarthy, and others, they decided that, hey, maybe, just maybe, instead of having Jim Jordan go to the floor to have a third vote, maybe they'll empower the temporary Speaker of the House, Patrick McHenry, to be Speaker until January. They would give him more powers to actually get the House moving again so they can get back to their swamp business instead of actually having a permanent Speaker of the House in Jim Jordan. Now, the news had come out that appeared to suggest that Jim Jordan was going to drop out of the race to be Speaker, that he was going to get behind this plan that Democrats would love, by the way, which is for Patrick McHenry to be the Speaker temporarily until January, and they were going to get back to business as usual. Now, when presenting this plan to the larger GOP conference, apparently that did not go over well with a lot of members of the conference, and things got pretty heated behind closed doors, allegedly.
Back here in Washington on Capitol Hill, there is even more chaos over the Speaker of the House race. Congressman Jim Jordan, who has failed to win the speakership after 2 rounds of voting, is putting a pause on a third vote, and according to sources, may back expanding the powers of the interim speaker, the Speaker pro tem Patrick McHenry, as a temporary fix until Jordan can try again. It's a plan that seems to be dividing the GOP conference just as much as Jordan's candidacy. And tensions are soaring in a GOP conference meeting underway right now with a lot of swearing and shouting. So let's get more now on this latest twist from CNN Chief Congressional Correspondent Manu Raju. This meeting, Manu, really sounds like it got out of hand. Where are things standing?
Yeah, it's been going on for more than 3 hours. It has devolved into a back and forth, tense words being exchanged, swear words being exchanged, including at one point, the former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, telling Matt Gaetz, who led the effort to oust him, to sit down. Gaetz didn't. Some other members cursed at him. One member, Mike Boss, went after him as well, cussing at him several times, we're told. Also, a number of members calling on Jim Jordan, the Speaker nominee for the Republican Party, to drop out. That is something that Jordan is refusing to do. Basically, where this stands right now is that Jordan has said that he would support making Patrick McHenry, the interim speaker, giving him more legislative power to move through the legislative process, take up bills that have been essentially paralyzed amid this fighting within the House. But he says he would not drop out of the race to be speaker. He said he would allow this process to be Pat McHenry to be an interim speaker to happen until January, at which point he'd be willing to move forward. But there's a problem. There has been furious opposition to this idea of propping up Patrick McHenry. One Republican member after another has come out here essentially saying that that is dead, that they will not support that it will not pass the House, and that ultimately they need to abandon that plan altogether here, raising even more questions about how they are going to proceed and whether Jordan will actually drop out of the race, whether a new candidate will emerge as speaker, and whether that candidate could even get the 217 votes he or she will need in this bitterly divided Republican conference. And in talking to these members and leaving this room, it is very clear the tension is very high, and many members are very, very much on the opposite sides about how to proceed.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that. So apparently tensions are very high, okay? So high that according to Anna Paulina Luna, someone tried to fight Matt Gaetz in conference, okay? They tried to fight Matt Gaetz behind closed doors. Now, meanwhile, you have this guy, Representative Vern Buchanan, who refuses to vote for Jim Jordan as speaker. He was partying last night at the White House bowling alley, right? So this guy is partying and having fun, while also at the same time, these are the same guys that claim to be pressured and harassed by Jim Jordan supporters to vote for Jim Jordan, right? Even though they don't want to, even though their constituents basically want Jim Jordan to be speaker. Again, this is what it looks like to be harassed and pressure, right? This is what it looks like behind closed doors. Fascinating stuff. So, like I said, again, there was a lot of back and forth about the plan to make Patrick McHenry Speaker pro tem. And I want to play Matt Gaetz's reaction and Marjorie Taylor Greene's reaction to this suggestion, as they're going to explain why they think it's a bad idea and why they should just elect Jim Jordan now. Take a look.
Sir, what do you think about this resolution to empower McHenry?
I think that I'm against Speaker Light. I'm against Bud Light. I believe it is a constitutional desecration to not elect a Speaker of the House. We need to stay here until we elect a Speaker. And if someone can't get the votes, we need to go on to the next person. But twisting and torturing the Constitution to empower a temporary speaker is having a speaker light that is not constitutionally contemplated, is deeply infirm, and I will do everything possible to stop it.
I do not support this plan. Republican voters worked too hard to give us the majority for us to enter some sort of temporary speakership. Our conference has a responsibility to the American people, to our districts, to work together and unify. And this conference is absolutely broken. And the reason why we're broken is because Republicans worked with Democrats and put us here. It's outrageous. We have serious issues happening in our country. Terrorists have come across our border. War is breaking out in Israel. War is continuing in Ukraine. The economy is getting worse and worse, and inflation is crushing everyone's ability to afford to live. This is the most disappointing thing, and it has to change.
Are you disappointed to see Mr. Jordan supporting this idea?
Yeah, absolutely. We voted for him to be our speaker nominee. We only had 2 votes. I wanted to see it keep going today and find a way to work with the holdouts to get together so that we can continue doing our work. And I don't know why this is happening, so I'm very disappointed.
Did Mr. Jordan present the plan today, and will there not be a vote on his speaker?
He wants to move with a resolution to empower Patrick McHenry as some sort of a short-term speaker. I think that's the wrong thing to do. He wants to do that while he continues talking to people and finding a path. I completely disagree. I think that we should all be able to find a path in that room right there, and that requires putting the egos down. It requires humility. It requires the 8 Republicans that work with Democrats to put us here asking for forgiveness in the conference and people giving forgiveness and us moving forward.
Out of this, you may not get Jim Jordan as speaker. You may get someone more moderate. What did you actually get for leading this charge to push out Kevin McCarthy?
We're shaking up Washington, D.C. We're breaking the fever. And you know what? It's messy. But the only reason people think there's chaos in this town right now is because the special interests aren't in control anymore. So I think we're going to have an upgrade at the position of Speaker of the House. For me, it was never about any one person. It was about ensuring that we got an upgrade at the position. Kevin McCarthy had failed us. He'd made multiple contradictory promises. We weren't really governing under McCarthy. Everybody's making this big deal out of the fact that we've burnt the equivalent of 4 legislative days on all of this. But I mean, we've spent like 7 legislative days on post offices and procedural votes, for goodness sakes. This is what it's supposed to be. And it's not clean and it's not orderly, and the lobbyists and the special interests hate it, but I don't seem to mind too much.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? So you have Matt Gaetz, who is defending what is happening right now, okay, to oust Kevin McCarthy, even though he didn't really have a plan to replace Kevin McCarthy, which is part of the reason why this is happening. But you have Matt Gaetz saying, no. We can't do Patrick McHenry as a temporary speaker. And Marjorie Taylor Greene also saying, no, we can't do that as well, too. And I agree. Because, again, making Patrick McHenry the speaker temporarily is doing exactly what Democrats want. This guy is a big Ukraine guy, right? He's big on sending money to Ukraine, sending money overseas. He has a 46% Liberty score. He's basically a moderate, right? He's a Democrat, right? He's basically a Democrat at this point, okay? And making him temporary speaker is like making Hakeem Jeffries almost, damn near Hakeem Jeffries, making him speaker, right? I'm just saying, this cannot be the path forward. This is the exact opposite of what the Republican base wants. So apparently, it got real rowdy behind closed doors, and they finally decided to move forward with Jim Jordan as speaker nominee, and he's going to hold a third vote to try to get him over the edge in order to actually become speaker. Take a look.
So I'll just say this: we made the pitch to members on the resolution as a way to lower the temperature and get back to work. We decided that wasn't where we're going to go. I'm still running for speaker, and I plan to go to the floor and get the votes and win this race. But I want to go talk with a few of my colleagues. Particularly, I want to talk with the 20 individuals who voted against me so that we can move forward and begin to work for the American people.
Congressman, is the resolution to empower McHenry dead at this point?
Yeah, it won't be offered by Republicans based on Speaker-designate Jordan's announcement just moments ago, and I think that's a good thing. The House of Representatives needs a speaker, not a speaker light. I don't support using temporary powers for Mr. McHenry, and I'm glad that our arguments seem to be persuasive to our colleagues.
But Jordan seemed to back this as his next strategy to give himself the time to cobble together more votes. I mean, this is something he's backed.
Well, I like Jim Jordan. I'm voting for Jim Jordan, but I don't agree with him on every subject. And I certainly don't agree that what would be best for the House of Representatives is a temporary speaker pro tem. I think we need to elect a speaker. I think we've got great folks in our conference. I think Jim Jordan sits atop that list, and I look forward to voting for him again today.
And one last question for you, because we are live here right now. How icy was it for you in that room? I heard it got pretty intense.
Well, I'm not for everyone, as it turns out, and I have my detractors, but I'm an attorney by trade. I don't get emotional about the presentation of arguments and listening to other people's arguments. It doesn't affect how I think about people. I was there to make the substantive argument that Speaker Light is a bad idea, just like Bud Light. But I far prefer us to continue having votes going forward. And, you know, when I held out with Speaker McCarthy, we had goals. We had specific things we were fighting for. I think a reasonable question to those that are holding out and not voting for Jordan is, what are you fighting for? What are your goals? What are your objectives here other than just recalcitrance?
Yeah, that is the question that everybody's wondering, including Jim Jordan, who apparently wrote this note after coming out of his meeting, where he put on a note, what is the real reason, right? What's the real reason? What is the real reason, right? I think that's what everybody's wondering, okay? Because, again, you know, you have multiple of these holdouts that are from deep red districts where their constituents definitely want them to vote for Jim Jordan. And they just refuse not to, right? They're just like, nah, we're not going to vote for Jim Jordan. Well, I can tell you what the real reason is. The real reason is because the lobbyists, the money interests are in their ear. And a lot of these guys love Kevin McCarthy's jock so much that they just can't hop off of it, right? They love it, okay? And that is probably the real reason, okay? It's about sending money over to Ukraine, continuing the status quo. And they know that Jim Jordan is different from the status quo. Now, again, will he be that different from the status quo given the slim majority? Not really, okay? But you know what this is about? This is not about now. It's really about what happens if/when the Republicans extend their lead in the House after 2024, right? Because if Jim Jordan becomes the speaker, then he's automatically going to be the lead guy in 2025 when they're voting again for a speaker after a new House is elected. And I would much rather have him than somebody like Kevin McCarthy. Let's say that the GOP expands their lead in the House to, I don't know, 20 or 30 votes, right? Which I'm not sure if it's possible. I'm just giving that as an example. Then the GOP has a lot of room to work in regards to legislation, investigations, all types of stuff that the GOP could get done. And I would much rather have somebody like Jim Jordan leading that than somebody like Kevin McCarthy. So again, considering the current situation, I'm not expecting Jim Jordan to, change the world given the slim majority right now. Again, I'm not being unrealistic about this, and I'm not trying to set up Jim Jordan to fail, right? If we have our expectations too high, we're setting the guy up to fail because he only can do so much with the slim majority. What we actually really want is to get him in power so that he's the number one guy going into 2024. And after the new Congress is elected, he is going to have more power because the GOP is going to extend the majority. Hopefully, right? That is what we want to see happen. Now, here's the thing. How Jim Jordan actually becomes speaker is going to tell us everything we need to know about him. Because when I first heard news that Jim Jordan was dropping out, I said, okay, if Jim Jordan is folding this early, remember, Kevin McCarthy got 15 rounds. If Jim Jordan is folding before the third vote, he ain't the guy, right? Because I said yesterday in my video about this, I said, look, Republicans have to stand their ground, right? The people that are pro Jim Jordan have to stand their ground and say, you know what? We're willing to go all the way with this, okay? We will not fold to the 20 traitors that are holding out because of money interests, because they want to send money overseas, because they want to continue the status quo as usual. They don't want to cut spending. They don't want to do what their constituents elect them to do. We will not fold to you traitors, right? So when I heard that news that Jim Jordan was possibly about to drop out, I said, okay, well, he's obviously not the guy, because if he does get elected speaker, is he going to hold Democrats he's going to hold their feet to the fire, right? Is he going to go all the way with them? If he can't even go all the way with his own caucus, his own team, to get them on board with an agenda that the American people want, the grassroots want, everybody wants, then, hey, that he ain't the guy. So again, when I heard that he's holding the third vote, I said, okay, this is good. I didn't think Jim Jordan was that weak, right? I didn't think he was so weak that he would just drop out. At this point, Jim Jordan has to put the pressure on the 20 Republicans, because the pressure is really on them. Okay, they can kiki and ha-ha behind closed doors right now and, go bowling and do all this other stuff, right? They can do that right now. But the more time that passes, the closer that we get to a government shutdown, like an actual government shutdown, and the more time that passes in regards to being able to send money overseas, and these guys are going to feel a ton of pressure to go with Jim Jordan as speaker, right? All Jim Jordan has to do is just hold out. That's all he has to do. These people will fold eventually. That's just my prediction. Again, I could be wrong, okay? This stuff is impossible to predict, but this is what I would do if I was Jim Jordan. I would hold out. I'd let the government shut down. Hey, if you're not going to elect me, then, hey, we're going to let the government shut down. It is what it is. But the worst thing that you can do is put a McCarthy light in the speaker position temporarily and say, well, give me a couple months, maybe 3 months or whatever, to convince you. Because these people, Again, if they're not convinced today, with all the pressure, with the government shutdown coming up, with the fact they desperately want to send money overseas, they want to do everything except actually spend money on America. If they're not going to do it today, they're not going to do it tomorrow. So you got to get it done today. And that's how I feel about it. So again, I'm holding out hope that Jim Jordan will be the guy. He will eventually get elected. But again, don't be surprised if eventually you see something like this happen where they try to bring Kevin McCarthy back. They try to make him speaker again. Or one of these rhinos, all you need is like 5 of them. They cut a deal with Democrats to make Hakeem Jeffries speaker because they are so desperate. But again, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the rhinos doing that. I would much rather they do that than for Jim Jordan to fold, right? Because if they do that, then we're going to primary the hell out of them. They're going to lose their jobs. And at this point, the GOP's majority is so slim. Effectively, at the end of the day, even if Hakeem Jeffries became speaker, it wouldn't be that bad because, again, he doesn't have that much power considering that the GOP would have the majority. He wouldn't be able to do anything at all, right? The only thing he'd be able to do is just stop the investigations into Biden, which at this point, do we really even need him? Considering how terrible Biden is doing in the polls, right? I saw a poll today that saw Trump was beating Biden in 5 out of 7 swing states. I mean, at this point, do we even need the impeachment proceedings against Biden in order to get him out? Because it's not like the Senate is actually going to convict Biden. It's not like he'll actually be removed. The whole reason for the impeachment is to make the case to the American people that this guy is corrupt, which is obvious, right? But realistically, they weren't going to actually really remove him because Democrats would never vote to remove Joe Biden. That was never going to happen. So at this point, hey, I say you go all the way and you continue to, stand your ground and you make these other traitors fold. I think that's the move. But hey, we'll see. Anything can happen, right? Anything can happen at this point. Wouldn't be surprised what happens. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.